onto the wing. The way P had cut this kit was 2 pieces of 3/16 inch, and then they were supposed to be laminated together to get, you know, the thickness that you needed. And then, of course, you know, there was a front half and a back half, just like you see here. I tried to laminate his pieces. I can't complain about his choice in wood, the way he cut it, anything like that. It just didn't turn out the way I was expecting. I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong other than not have crazy amounts of weight. But this was the top, this is the bottom. I really can't get the light good enough in here for you to be able to see it, but you know, pretty nasty gaps all over the place. I don't know if I didn't have it clamped down hard enough, which is what seems like the obvious, you know, answer to this is that it was a me problem, not a him problem. But yeah, so that didn't work that way. So what I had to do was I had to dip into the proverbial good wood. It's kind of a long time running joke about, you know, quality of wood of balsa and what we can get now versus what used to be sold and how much it costs then and how much it costs now. But man, let me tell you what, the way kits, well not kits, this was just a plan, the way people used to build as far as their definition of good wood and dimensions and all this and that, whew, man, I wish wood prices were still like that. If you listen to these guys and about how they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together and they still managed to build these absolutely crazy airplanes, that would be super cool if that quality wood was still available for those kind of prices. Luckily, I get my wood at trade shows and things like that. You find the right guy, and this guy's, you know, and they always have good stuff, and man, they can't give this stuff away. And so you get them towards the end when it's time to start, you know, packing up for the day and all that. You can walk away with some pretty good deals from swap meets on balsa wood. But anyways, so I wanted to really take a second here and just talk about choices of wood for what you're doing and how you're doing it. This is a really good example. That's why I kind of stopped here, and this is going to be its own video on its own, how to pick and select and choose wood. So you can kind of see how it gets darker over towards this side, lighter over here. And yeah, some of that is my light, but a lot of that also comes from the grain and the structure of the wood. So, man, I really hope I can show this to you guys. Easiest to see are these really large, big check marks. This is how you're reading the grain of the wood. Yeah, I know there's some ugly spots and stuff like that from storage. But anyways, you know, these really long straight lines, you see them all the way down through here and to the back, all right? When it looks like this, that's sea grain wood, quarter sawn, may have heard it called, but this is the hardest of the hard balsa, and this is also the outboard wing. So when this thing's coming for a pit stop, that pit guy is just grabbing the wing, right? So you want something good and hard and solid right out there in that leading edge, so when he grabs it, just doesn't go and just collapse and look gross or break at the absolute worst. On the other side, you can see how the lines get a lot longer, but they're still short. I mean, they're not all super long and connected, so it would make it look obvious that you could bend it like that. This will kind of go all over the place. That's more of your B grain type wood, which again, it's stiff. It's not as stiff as our C, but it's way stiffer than the A grain. So on something like this, you want to pay attention and see if you can lay your board out in such a way that you get the hardest wood on the outside for a racer. I mean, if this were to be some kind of combat plane, for that too, anything where you know that outboard wing is going to take a lot of abuse. Even on a stunt plane, if you're carving your end caps for your wing tips, you can make the outboard one out of maybe a more, not really sea grain because it doesn't carve very nice, but heavier wood, because this seed grain gets heavy, you can make it out of heavier wood, so that way you don't use much tip weight that's non-functional that gets into trimming of an airplane. But same also comes in for racing and speed as far as tip weight, because you usually need a lot of tip weight in speed and racing planes. That comes from torque roll. We're running these motors a lot harder than a stud engine, and also from the prop choice, that there's a lot of forces involved. Needless to say, tip weight helps on speed and race planes. That's way outside of what we're talking about here, but tip weight good. Remember that. But yeah, so as far as wood choice, that's that. And now from here we, just true up the edges from, the bandsaw before we glue them together. And then we start carving an airfoil.